The stars outside the viewport of Mara's shuttle stretched into long, glowing streaks as she guided the ship toward the surface of Vesper 9. She had flown through countless systems before, but something about this mining colony felt different. The planet's surface glimmered with jagged crystal formations, reflecting the faint light of a distant sun. It was beautiful, yet dangerous. Mara had learned long ago that beauty in space often hid peril. The shuttle's thrusters hummed steadily, and the control panels glowed softly. Mara adjusted the approach, careful to avoid the sharp crystalline outcrops that could easily puncture her hull. She had done this landing routine many times, but every new environment required focus and attention. Mara had trained for situations like this since she was a child. Her father had always said that the stars tested those who traveled through them, and she had never forgotten it. As the shuttle's landing gear touched down, a small cloud of dust rose from the crystal-covered ground. Mara exhaled, feeling the familiar satisfaction of a perfect landing. She checked the ship's systems, ensuring that everything was stable. No damage, no warning signs, nothing unusual. Just another day in the life of a pilot who had seen more planets than most soldiers had seen days. The outpost appeared ahead, a cluster of metallic buildings and towers connected by narrow walkways and energy conduits. From her shuttle, Mara could see figures moving within the compound. They were tall, with slender limbs and angular features that marked them as Yllari. The Yllari were known throughout the sector as disciplined and powerful warriors. Her mission was simple: deliver supplies, assist where needed, and leave. But Mara suspected that things would not be simple. As she stepped off the shuttle, the ground crunching under her boots, a few Yllari soldiers approached. Their skin shimmered slightly under the sunlight, and their movements were precise and deliberate. They stopped a few meters away, observing her. One of them, taller than the others with sharp, focused eyes, stepped forward. "You are human," he said, his voice calm but carrying authority. "I am Kiro. Why are you here?" Mara smiled slightly, keeping her hands visible and relaxed. "I deliver supplies. I can also help with training if you need an extra hand." Kiro's eyes narrowed. Humans were known for their resourcefulness, but they were also seen as fragile. To the Yllari, a human offering to train with them sounded almost laughable. "You wish to train with warriors of the Yllari Federation?" he asked, his tone carrying a mixture of amusement and doubt. Mara nodded. "I learn fast, and I can teach some things too. Humans fight differently. Sometimes it works." Kiro tilted his head, considering her words. He had fought countless opponents and had never needed to adapt to anything as unpredictable as a human. He decided to test her. "Very well. Show me your strength. But know this. If you fail, do not claim ignorance. You will be seen clearly." Mara's eyes lit with quiet determination. She had faced stronger opponents before, but none quite like the Yllari. "I am ready," she said simply. The training arena was a wide, open courtyard surrounded by high walls and observation platforms. The surface was made of a smooth alloy, perfect for sparring without causing unnecessary injury. Other Yllari warriors gathered around, curious to see how a human would perform. Mara noticed their eyes on her, measuring every movement, every twitch of her muscles. Kiro moved to the center, standing tall and poised. His posture was perfect, every muscle controlled. Mara studied him carefully. The Yllari style was precise, almost mechanical in its perfection. Each strike had a purpose, each movement had a goal. Humans, by contrast, relied on adaptability, unpredictability, and instinct. She smiled quietly, knowing her approach was different but effective in its own way. The first exchange was simple. Kiro struck with a fast, clean motion aimed to test her reaction. Mara barely moved, letting the strike pass close to her shoulder. She responded with a quick jab, light and seemingly weak. Kiro raised an eyebrow and chuckled. "You hit like a child," he said, his voice carrying amusement across the courtyard. Mara smiled and tilted her head slightly. "Good. I am warming up," she replied. Her words carried confidence, not arrogance. The other Yllari murmured among themselves. Some laughed quietly. They had never seen a human speak like that in the middle of combat. Kiro's expression remained unreadable, but Mara noticed the tiniest shift in his stance. Curiosity. He was intrigued by her calm confidence. "Do not mistake your words for skill," he said. "Warm up or not, this will be your test." The sparring intensified. Kiro struck again, faster this time, aiming to break her rhythm. Mara danced around his attacks, ducking, sidestepping, and occasionally letting a strike glance off her armor. Each movement was deliberate. She used her size and speed, which were smaller than Kiro's but far more flexible. Her strikes were light but quick, targeting joints, balance points, and openings rather than brute force. Kiro adjusted, now striking with a controlled pattern designed to predict her reactions. But Mara had studied humans and aliens alike. She did not move randomly. She moved unpredictably, using small shifts, feints, and sudden bursts. The audience watched in silent awe. For every strike Kiro threw, Mara had a counter, sometimes subtle, sometimes forceful enough to make him pause. By now, Mara's initial warming up had evolved into a dance of skill and strategy. Kiro began to respect her instinct. She was not strong in the way the Yllari were strong, but she was cunning, flexible, and fast. Each small strike carried a purpose, each movement a lesson in human ingenuity. A group of younger Yllari soldiers whispered among themselves. "She is just human," one said quietly. "But her moves, they are clever. She adapts." Kiro nodded slightly, acknowledging the truth of their words. "Humans are unpredictable," he admitted softly. "They survive in ways we do not always understand." Mara's eyes sparkled with determination. She knew the Yllari valued strength, but she also knew that adaptability and instinct could be equally powerful. Humans had survived in the harshest environments, faced countless enemies, and evolved through struggle. Her strikes, her movements, and even her confidence were part of that legacy. As the sparring session neared its end, Mara used a combination of speed, timing, and positioning to evade Kiro's final series of strikes. She barely touched him, but the touch disrupted his balance enough to demonstrate her skill. Kiro took a step back, breathing evenly, and raised his hand in a silent signal to stop. Mara lowered her guard, smiling faintly. "Not bad for a first round," she said casually. Kiro regarded her for a long moment. "You are different," he said finally. "Different from anyone I have ever faced. Not weak, not reckless, but human in a way that surprises even me." Mara shrugged lightly. "I told you I was warming up." She left the statement hanging, confident yet unprovocative. The other Yllari watched her with a mix of surprise and admiration. The session ended, but the impact remained. Mara had proven that humans could match, and even outthink, the Yllari warriors. Her approach was unconventional, yes, but effective. Kiro could not ignore it, and he would not forget it. After the sparring, Mara walked to the supply depot, checking her equipment while the Yllari observed her silently. She moved with purpose and calm, carrying the quiet assurance of someone who had faced far greater challenges than any training arena could offer. Kiro approached her quietly. "Tomorrow, we will test your skills further," he said. "Not just in sparring, but in strategy. You may have potential beyond what I expected." Mara looked up, meeting his eyes steadily. "I do not need to prove anything," she said simply. "But I am ready for any test you give." Kiro nodded. There was respect in his gaze, faint but unmistakable. The human's reputation for creativity and unpredictability was no longer just rumor to him. He had seen it firsthand. As the sun dipped behind the jagged crystals of Vesper 9, Mara stood outside the shuttle, watching the sky turn from gold to deep blue. She knew the days ahead would challenge her in ways she had never imagined, but she also knew that humans survived not because of strength alone, but because of courage, adaptability, and the willingness to rise against any challenge. And Mara had all of that in abundance. The next morning, the sky above Vesper 9 was a pale orange, dusted with streaks of thin clouds. Mara stepped out of her shuttle and stretched her arms, feeling the crisp air of the planet brush against her skin. Despite the early hour, the Yalari outpost was already alive with activity. Soldiers moved in synchronized formations, checking weapons, reviewing strategies, and performing drills. Mara observed quietly, taking in their precision. Each movement was calculated, each gesture controlled. They were a disciplined force, and she admired their efficiency. Kiro approached her, moving with the same calm precision that had impressed her the day before. "Today, we will begin your first true test," he said. His voice held no mockery this time, only a sense of measured challenge. "Sparring is one thing, but survival is another. You will face obstacles designed to test your speed, intelligence, and adaptability." Mara nodded. "I am ready," she replied, her tone steady. She had trained in environments far harsher than any simulation, and she trusted her instincts. Kiro led her to a large training field on the edge of the outpost. It was an open space dotted with obstacles, low walls, narrow trenches, raised platforms, and scattered barrels. Drones hovered above, observing, ready to intervene if anyone was injured. "This field will test your ability to respond quickly under pressure," Kiro explained. "You will face a sequence of attacks designed to overwhelm your senses. Survive, adapt, and you will pass." Mara examined the course. It was complex, but not impossible. She noted the positions of the obstacles and calculated how to use them to her advantage. Humans relied on adaptability, and she intended to show the Yalari that even a smaller, seemingly weaker being could turn unpredictability into strength. Kiro raised his hand, signaling the start. From all directions, small drones emerged, each moving with programmed precision, simulating enemy attacks. Some fired harmless energy pulses, others moved quickly to block paths or force her into tight spaces. Mara's first instinct was to move cautiously, observing the drone's patterns, but she quickly realized hesitation could be deadly. She sprinted forward, her boots pounding against the metal surface. She ducked under a swinging barrier, rolled across the ground to avoid a low-flying drone, and jumped over a narrow trench. Each action was deliberate yet fluid. The drones adapted to her movements, changing their trajectories, but Mara anticipated each adjustment. Kiro watched silently from a platform above. He expected a human to falter, to be slowed by the complexity of the field. But Mara moved with a combination of speed and cleverness that was unusual even for the Yalari. Her strikes were light but precise, tapping sensors on the drones to deactivate or redirect them. Her body moved almost instinctively, turning small disadvantages into advantages. A taller Yalari soldier whispered to a colleague, "She is fast and clever. Humans are unpredictable." The colleague nodded. Both of them had trained for years, yet Mara's adaptability fascinated them. One of the drones accelerated toward her, aiming to corner her against a wall. Mara leapt sideways, grabbed a loose panel from the ground and swung it to block the drone's path. It ricocheted harmlessly, but the motion disrupted its sensors, giving her an opening to escape. Kiro raised his eyebrows. She had used her environment in a way few Yalari could imagine. Mara continued through the field, each obstacle presenting a new challenge. A narrow bridge required balance while dodging pulses from hovering drones. A series of tall, moving platforms forced her to time each jump perfectly. She used the tips of her boots, the momentum of her arms, and her quick reflexes to stay ahead. It was exhausting, yet she thrived in the chaos. Kiro decided to test her further. He activated a new set of drones, faster and more aggressive than the first. Their movements were irregular, meant to confuse her. Mara hesitated for only a fraction of a second, enough for Kiro to see how she would react. Then she adjusted, weaving through the drones, ducking, jumping, and even using one drone's momentum to flip over another. The Yalari soldiers observing from above began to murmur among themselves. "She is different," one said. "Her mind moves faster than her body, but her body follows perfectly." Mara felt the strain in her muscles but ignored it. Humans had a way of enduring that surprised others. Pain was a signal, not a limitation. Her mind stayed focused on patterns, openings, and possibilities. She moved as if she were dancing, each step calculated yet fluid. At the far end of the field, a larger drone loomed, its energy pulses faster and brighter than the others. It was designed to corner and intimidate. Mara assessed quickly. A direct approach would be dangerous, but a feint might work. She ran toward the drone, dodged its first strike, then slipped behind it, tapping a control sensor that deactivated its weapons temporarily. Kiro, watching intently, realized she was not merely surviving. She was controlling the scenario. Her movements were not random. They were strategic. She had turned her apparent weakness into an advantage, proving that humans could adapt in ways the Yalari had not anticipated. The session ended with Mara standing in the middle of the field, breathing steadily, her clothes slightly scuffed but her spirit unshaken. Kiro descended from the platform, approaching her with a measured stride. "You are impressive," he said quietly. "I underestimated you yesterday. Your speed, your awareness, your ability to adapt. Humans may be smaller, but your mind is sharp. You survive where others would fail." Mara smiled faintly. "Thank you. But this is only the first test. I can do more." Kiro nodded. He could sense the truth in her words. Humans often started with small, careful actions, but when they learned, they grew rapidly. Their potential was remarkable, and Mara exemplified it perfectly. The other Yalari, soldiers, approached Mara cautiously, some with curiosity, others with cautious respect. One of the younger warriors, barely half her size, asked, "How do you move so quickly? How do you see what is coming?" Mara crouched slightly to meet the soldier's eye level. "I do not try to see everything at once," she explained. "I watch patterns. I pay attention, and I move before thinking slows me down. Humans have learned to survive because we do not rely only on strength. We rely on understanding and action together." The soldier nodded slowly, absorbing the lesson. The Yalari valued strength, but Mara was teaching them a different kind of power, the ability to adapt, to think on the spot, and to turn a disadvantage into an advantage. Kiro observed silently, his expression thoughtful. Mara's human ways were different, unpredictable, and effective. He realized that strength was not only measured by precision or power, but also by the ability to improvise and act decisively. The morning ended with Mara receiving the supplies she had brought, checking the inventory, and organizing them efficiently. Even in simple tasks, she worked methodically, showing the Yalari that humans could combine creativity with organization. Before leaving the field, Kiro approached her one last time. "You will face more challenges soon," he said. "Not all of them will be physical. Some will test your mind, your strategy, and your ability to lead. But today you have proven that you can survive against the odds. That is the beginning of respect." Mara nodded. "I am ready for what comes next." Her voice was calm, steady, and full of quiet determination. As Mara returned to her shuttle to rest, she felt a sense of accomplishment. The Yalari had underestimated her, and she had proven them wrong. But more importantly, she had shown that humans were more than their size, more than their strength, and more than their reputation. Humans survived because they adapted, they thought, and they acted. They turned weaknesses into advantages and challenges into opportunities. Mara had done all of this in a single morning, but she knew that the real tests were yet to come. The sun climbed higher, casting sharp shadows across the crystalline landscape of Vesper 9. Mara watched from her shuttle as the Yalari returned to their training, their movements precise, yet slightly altered. She knew they had learned from her as much as she had learned from them. And Mara was only getting started. The afternoon sun shone brightly over Vesper 9, casting long shadows across the crystalline ridges that surrounded the Yalari outpost. Mara had just finished checking the inventory she had delivered. Her supplies included energy cells, medical kits, and small drones designed to assist the soldiers in training exercises. Everything was in perfect order, and she felt satisfied with her work. Kiro approached, his posture calm but alert. "The drills today were impressive," he said. "You have adapted quickly, Mara. The other soldiers are beginning to take notice. But I must warn you, challenges here are rarely simple. We may face threats beyond training exercises. Mara looked at him thoughtfully. I am ready for anything, she said. Her confidence was steady, not boastful. Humans had survived in far harsher conditions, and she trusted her instincts. No sooner had she spoken than the ground beneath the outpost shook. The vibration was subtle at first, almost like the distant rumble of a storm, but it quickly grew stronger. Soldiers paused in their activities, eyes scanning the horizon. Mara's instincts told her this was no ordinary tremor. Kiro's expression hardened. Mechanical drones, he said quietly. Leftover machines from the old conflicts. They should not be active. Yet here they come. From beyond the crystal ridges, a swarm of small but aggressive drones emerged. They moved in coordinated patterns, firing harmless but disabling energy pulses at anything in their path. The Yalari soldiers quickly formed defensive lines, preparing to repel the attack. Mara could see the fear in some of the younger soldiers, but she remained calm. Follow my lead, she said to the nearest Yalari warriors. We need to control their movements, not just fight them head-on. Kiro glanced at her, intrigued. Show me your plan, he said. He knew humans often thought differently than the Yalari. Their strength came from discipline and precision, but sometimes it lacked creativity. Mara was about to prove the difference. She moved toward the swarm, analyzing the drone's patterns. They focus on predictable targets, she said. If we move unpredictably, we can redirect them. Mara tapped the ground lightly with her boots, indicating points where soldiers could position themselves to trap the drones. Use the walls and platforms. Force them into corners where they cannot maneuver. The Yalari soldiers followed her instructions, though with some hesitation. Mara ran forward, darting between two drones, her movements quick and precise. One drone shot a pulse toward her, but she twisted midair, letting it hit a wall instead. She tapped its sensors lightly, sending it spinning harmlessly to the side. Kiro watched carefully. He was amazed. Mara was not merely surviving. She was controlling the battlefield. Every movement had a purpose. Every action forced the drones into disadvantageous positions. One of the drones attempted to isolate a young Yalari soldier, but Mara reacted instantly. She ran forward, using her small size to slip under its attack, then leapt onto a nearby platform. From there, she kicked a loose panel toward the drone, causing it to stumble and lose balance. The young soldier escaped, wide-eyed but unharmed. The battle continued, each moment testing Mara's reflexes and decision-making. She darted across the field, guiding the Yalari soldiers with hand signals and verbal commands. Some of the older soldiers began to follow her lead instinctively. Mara realized that humans often inspired others not by strength alone, but by decisiveness and creativity. Kiro joined the fight directly, his strikes precise and controlled. He deactivated several drones with single blows, but Mara's influence was clear. She had disrupted the swarm, made the drones unpredictable, and given the soldiers a fighting chance. A particularly large drone advanced toward Mara. Its energy pulses were faster and brighter than the others, designed to intimidate. Mara paused, studying its movements carefully. She noticed a small pattern in its trajectory, a delay that could be exploited. Timing her move perfectly, she rolled under its attack, grabbed a nearby energy conduit, and swung it toward the drone. It struck the machine, causing it to topple and deactivate. Kiro observed silently, impressed. You are controlling them, not just reacting, he muttered. Mara's approach was unlike anything he had seen. She used her size, speed, and creativity to manipulate the battlefield. The drones, despite their programming, were responding to her unpredictability. The Yalari soldiers began to adjust their tactics based on Mara's actions. Some followed her movements closely, mirroring her unconventional attacks. Others focused on supporting her by blocking paths and protecting weaker soldiers. Together, the human and Yalari forces started turning the tide. Mara felt a surge of determination. She knew this was more than a simple exercise. The drones were remnants of old wars, and they could have caused serious damage if not controlled. Humans had a history of surviving impossible situations, and she intended to demonstrate that lesson fully. The battle reached its climax as the largest group of drones converged near the control center of the outpost. If the drones reached the center, communications would be disrupted and the outpost could be trapped. Mara quickly devised a plan. Form a circle around the center, she instructed. I will lead them into it. Once they are enclosed, strike together. The Yalari soldiers moved quickly, trusting her judgment. Mara ran toward the drones, drawing them away from the center. Her movements were fast, precise, and calculated. The drones followed her, reacting predictably to her deliberate actions. At the last moment, she leapt over a trench, landing on the other side, and signaled the soldiers to attack. They moved in perfect unison, striking the trapped drones with precise blows. One by one, the machines deactivated, their energy cores flickering out. When the last drone fell, the battlefield was silent except for the heavy breathing of the soldiers. Mara stood in the middle, her body slightly tired but her mind sharp. She had turned a dangerous situation into a controlled victory. Cairo approached her, his expression one of admiration. "You have done something remarkable," he said. Most humans would have panicked. Most soldiers, even Yalari, would have struggled to adapt so quickly. But you saw the pattern, controlled the chaos, and protected the outpost. "You are unlike any human I have known." Mara nodded, brushing dust from her uniform. "It is not about strength alone," she replied. "It is about seeing the possibilities, acting quickly, and using what is available. Humans survive because we think, adapt, and act together." The other Yalari soldiers looked at her with newfound respect. Mara's actions had proven that human ingenuity was more than just clever tricks. It was a combination of observation, creativity, and courage. Even Kiro, who had initially doubted her, could no longer ignore the truth. As the sun dipped lower, Mara and Kiro surveyed the battlefield. The drones were disabled, the soldiers unharmed, and the outpost secure. The younger Yalari approached Mara cautiously. One of them asked, "How did you know what to do? How did you control the drones?" Mara crouched to meet their eyes. "I watched patterns. I understood how they moved. Then I acted quickly. Humans are small, but we can adapt faster than you expect. The key is not to fight like they fight, but to use your mind to guide your actions." The soldiers absorbed her words silently, realizing that survival was not just about power or discipline. It was about creativity, quick thinking, and courage under pressure. Kiro stood beside her, watching quietly. He realized that Mara had taught not just the young soldiers but everyone present a lesson. Humans were underestimated at their own risk. Strength was not only measured by skill or power, but by the ability to think, adapt, and act decisively. After the battle, Mara helped the Yalari repair minor damage to the training field and organize the disabled drones for study. Even in these small tasks, she worked efficiently and methodically, showing that humans could combine intelligence with practical action. As the day ended, Mara looked up at the orange sky, reflecting on the events that had unfolded. She had proven her adaptability and intelligence, but she also knew that this was only the beginning. Vesper 9 was full of challenges, and the human's reputation for resilience and creativity would continue to be tested. Cairo approached her one final time before the evening. "Tomorrow will not be as simple as today," he said. "You will face challenges that require not just quick thinking, but strategy, planning, and leadership. If you succeed, the outpost will be stronger because of you." Mara smiled faintly. "I am ready," she said. Her confidence was steady, rooted in the knowledge that humans survive not by relying solely on strength, but by combining intelligence, adaptability, and courage. As Mara prepared for rest, she understood that the Yalari had learned as much from her as she had learned from them. Humans were often underestimated, but their greatest strength was their mind, their creativity, and their ability to rise to any challenge. And Mara was ready to prove it again. The morning light on Vesper 9 was pale and steady, reflecting off the jagged crystals that surrounded the Yalari outpost. Mara woke early, her mind still buzzing from the events of the previous day. The drone attack had tested her speed, creativity, and instinct, but Kiro had already hinted that the real challenge was coming. Mara knew that today would be about more than fighting. It would test strategy, leadership, and the ability to work with others under pressure. She walked toward the training arena, her boots making soft sounds against the alloy surface. Kiro was already there, standing tall and silent, his eyes scanning the field as though he could see the challenges before they arrived. Around him, the other Yalari soldiers gathered, their expressions serious. Mara could feel the tension in the air. This was not a simple exercise. Kiro spoke clearly, his voice carrying across the field. "Today's trial will simulate a full-scale attack on the outpost. You will not face a single enemy or obstacle. You will face multiple threats, limited resources, and situations that require both strategy and quick thinking. Mara, you will be co-leader with me. Your human approach may provide an advantage, but it will also be tested. We will see how well you can adapt under extreme conditions. Mara nodded. I understand, she said. She glanced at the younger soldiers who looked uncertain and frightened. Her presence seemed to reassure them. Humans had a way of inspiring confidence simply through calm determination. The trial began as a loud siren echoed through the compound. Mechanical drones programmed with complex attack patterns emerged from multiple directions. Some were small and fast, designed to harass and distract. Others were larger and heavily armored, meant to block paths and force the soldiers into traps. The challenge was immediate and overwhelming. Mara quickly assessed the situation. She spotted Kiro directing some soldiers toward one flank, while another group tried to defend the main entrance. The field was chaotic, filled with moving obstacles, shifting platforms, and aggressive drones. If they did not act strategically, the outpost would be compromised. She moved toward the nearest group of soldiers. Form a protective line near the eastern platform, she instructed. I will lead the drones into traps while Kiro handles the main assault. Work together and anticipate their movements. The soldiers hesitated for only a moment before following her guidance. Mara ran forward, dodging pulses from the drones, weaving between obstacles with precise timing. She tapped sensors and control panels to redirect drones into the designated traps. Her movements were fluid and confident, blending instinct with strategy. Kiro watched her closely, impressed by her ability to control the battlefield. She does not merely react, he thought. She anticipates. She guides. Her mind is as sharp as her reflexes. A large drone advanced toward Mara, moving quickly to block her path. She jumped onto a nearby platform, using it to gain height, then leapt again, landing behind the machine. With a swift kick, she tapped its sensor panel, sending it spinning harmlessly into a wall. The smaller drones following it became disoriented, allowing Mara to redirect them into pre-planned traps. The younger soldiers, inspired by her example, moved with more confidence. They began to coordinate their actions, forming defensive lines and responding quickly to Mara's signals. Even the older Yalari warriors adjusted, using her human tactics to complement their disciplined strikes. Kiro joined the central fight, striking with precision and power. His movements were controlled and effective, but Mara's influence was evident. She was not only surviving, she was directing the flow of the trial. The drones, designed to create chaos, were now responding to her strategy. As the trial progressed, obstacles increased in difficulty. Platforms moved faster, energy barriers activated unpredictably, and drones became more aggressive. Mara's endurance and focus were tested. Sweat ran down her face and her muscles ached, but she continued to move with determination. Humans had learned to thrive under pressure, and she embodied that ability perfectly. Mara noticed a cluster of drones attempting to isolate a young soldier near a narrow corridor. Without hesitation, she sprinted toward them, weaving between pulses and obstacles. With a quick series of taps and redirections, she forced the drones into a corner where the other soldiers could neutralize them safely. The young soldier looked up at her with wide eyes, gratitude and admiration shining through. Kiro, observing from the center of the field, recognized the effectiveness of her approach. She is not only surviving, he muttered. She is teaching them to fight, adapt, and think. The trial reached its climax as a massive group of drones advanced toward the outpost's central command hub. If they succeeded in reaching it, the simulation would declare the outpost lost. Mara quickly devised a plan. Form a circle around the hub, she instructed the soldiers. I will lure the drones into it and we will strike together. Timing is everything. The soldiers moved quickly, trusting her guidance. Mara ran toward the approaching swarm, darting between obstacles and drawing their attention. Her movements were swift, precise, and unpredictable. The drones followed her, responding to her actions as if she were controlling their flow. At the critical moment, she signaled the soldiers to attack. In unison, they struck the trapped drones, deactivating one after another. Mara moved among them, redirecting the last few with swift and calculated motions. Within moments, the central hub was safe, and the trial was successfully completed. The soldiers erupted in cheers, both relieved and impressed by the success. Mara stood in the center, breathing steadily but proud. She had not only survived, but had led, inspired, and controlled the outcome. Kiro approached her, his expression serious but respectful. You have done more than I expected, he said. Humans are often underestimated. Your ability to adapt, lead, and think strategically is remarkable. Today, you have proven that humans can match and even exceed the skill of seasoned Yalari warriors. Mara nodded. It is not about being stronger, she said calmly. It is about observing, thinking, and acting. Humans survive because we combine these skills and we improve constantly. This trial was a chance to show that. The other Yalari soldiers gathered around, their expressions a mixture of admiration and curiosity. They had witnessed something extraordinary. Mara's human creativity, combined with Kiro's disciplined precision, had turned a chaotic and overwhelming scenario into a clear victory. One of the younger warriors stepped forward hesitantly. How do you plan so quickly? How do you see all the possibilities at once? Mara crouched slightly to meet his gaze. I do not see everything at once, she explained. I focus on what is important, watch for patterns, and act before hesitation slows me down. Humans survive by adapting quickly and using what is available. That is the key. Cairo nodded, impressed by her explanation. He had trained for years, but Mara had demonstrated a perspective he had never fully considered. Humans combined instinct, intelligence, and courage in ways that could surpass even the most disciplined warrior. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the crystalline landscape, Mara and Cairo surveyed the field. The obstacles were cleared, the drones deactivated, and the soldiers unharmed. The trial had tested not just physical ability but leadership, strategy, and creativity. Kiro turned to Mara. Tomorrow, we will face a different challenge, he said. It will test your endurance, your observation, and your ability to make decisions under stress. But today you have proven something important. Humans are more than strength alone. They are adaptable, inventive, and courageous. Mara smiled faintly. I am ready for what comes next, she replied. Her confidence was steady, rooted in the knowledge that humans survived by combining intelligence with action. As she walked back to her shuttle to rest, she reflected on the trial. The Yalari had learned from her approach, and she had learned from their discipline. Together they had created a balance of power, strategy, and adaptability. Mara knew that her journey on Vesper 9 was far from over. The final challenges would demand everything she had learned and more. But she also knew that humans had a unique strength, the ability to adapt, to lead, and to rise to any challenge, no matter how difficult. And Mara was ready to face whatever came next. The dawn light on Vesper 9 was soft and pale, spilling over the crystalline ridges and casting long reflections across the outpost. Mara stood at the edge of the observation deck, looking over the field where the previous day's trials had taken place. She felt a quiet sense of readiness. Today's challenge would not just test skill or strategy. It would test endurance, leadership, and the ability to adapt under relentless pressure. Kiro approached silently, his tall frame moving with calm precision. This is the final trial, he said. His voice carried a mixture of seriousness and respect. You will face multiple threats, some physical, some mental. You will need to make quick decisions, protect the soldiers, and maintain control of the outpost. If you succeed, your influence here will be lasting. Mara nodded. I am ready, she replied. She felt no fear, only anticipation. Humans had survived far harsher situations than any simulated threat. She trusted her instincts, her training, and her ability to adapt. The trial began as alarms echoed through the outpost. Drones of every size and type emerged from all directions, some armed with rapid energy pulses, others programmed to block paths and create confusion. At the same time, simulated breaches in the outpost's defenses activated, forcing soldiers to respond quickly while maintaining their positions. The field became chaotic, filled with moving obstacles, flashing warnings, and constant motion. Mara immediately assessed the situation. She could see the main paths where drones were advancing, the areas where soldiers were at risk, and the points that needed to be secured. Her eyes moved quickly, calculating, observing, and planning. Cairo, she called. We need to divide the teams. Take the central defense, I will manage the outer flanks. Use the soldiers to control movement and trap the drones. Communication is key. Kiro nodded, impressed by her clarity. He moved toward the central command while Mara sprinted toward the eastern flank. Her boots struck the alloy surface in rapid rhythm, her mind calculating every movement and anticipating every threat. A small squad of drones surged toward her position. Mara jumped over a narrow trench, dodged an energy pulse and tapped a control panel to redirect them into a barrier. The drones collided harmlessly, giving the soldiers nearby a chance to neutralize them. Her actions were precise yet fluid, demonstrating the perfect combination of human intuition and strategy. Kiro, in the center, fought with disciplined precision, disabling drones with clean, effective strikes. Yet Mara's influence was evident. She was not only surviving, she was orchestrating the battlefield. Every move she made disrupted the drones' patterns, forcing them into controlled situations where the Yllari could respond effectively. Suddenly, a group of larger drones advanced toward the central hub. Mara noticed a young soldier struggling to maintain position under the pressure. Without hesitation, she sprinted forward, using her speed and agility to intercept the drones. With quick taps and calculated movements, she redirected their trajectory, pushing them toward traps that had been set earlier. The young soldier watched her in awe. "She moves like she can see the future," he whispered. Mara smiled briefly, focusing on the task. Humans often seemed smaller and weaker, but they had a unique ability to adapt, observe, and act faster than anyone expected. The trial intensified as more drones emerged from hidden launch points. The field became a maze of obstacles, moving platforms, and flashing lights. Mara darted between drones, guiding soldiers and making split-second decisions. Her mind was sharp, her body agile, and her determination unwavering. Kiro glanced at her, realizing the full impact of her presence. She is not only surviving, he thought. She is leading. Her human approach complements our discipline perfectly. At one point, a massive drone attempted to breach the central hub. Mara quickly assessed the situation. She sprinted toward the device, using a nearby platform to gain height. From there, she leapt onto a smaller drone that had been following her, tapping its sensor to redirect the larger machine into a preset trap. The massive drone collided harmlessly and the threat was neutralized. The other soldiers, inspired by her courage and quick thinking, moved with greater confidence. They followed her signals, coordinated their actions, and began to control the chaotic field. Mara's human approach, combining instinct, observation, and adaptability, had turned a desperate situation into a manageable one. Hours passed as the trial continued. The sun climbed high, then began its slow descent. Mara remained focused, moving from one position to another, redirecting drones, protecting soldiers, and maintaining control over the field. Her endurance was remarkable. Humans were often underestimated, but they could endure, adapt, and inspire others in ways that no single measure of strength could predict. Finally, the last wave of drones approached. They were smaller but faster, designed to create confusion and test the soldiers' concentration. Mara studied their movements carefully. She sprinted forward, dodged the pulses, and tapped control panels to redirect them into a contained area. The soldiers moved in, neutralizing the final threats. The field fell silent. The drones were deactivated, the soldiers safe, and the outpost secure. Mara stood in the center, breathing steadily, her body tired but her mind sharp. She had not only survived but had led, inspired, and controlled the outcome. Kiro approached her, his expression filled with admiration. "You have done more than I could have imagined," he said. "Your human approach, your ability to adapt, to lead, to think and act under pressure, is extraordinary. You have proven that humans are not defined by size or strength alone. You are resourceful, intelligent, and courageous." Mara smiled faintly. "It is not about being the strongest," she said. "It is about using what you have, thinking quickly and helping others. Humans survive because we combine intelligence, action, and courage. That is how we overcome any challenge." The younger Yllari soldiers gathered around her, their expressions a mix of awe and respect. One of them asked quietly, "Will you stay and teach us more?" Mara shook her head. "I have learned from you as well. What matters is that you use what you have, adapt, and never stop improving. That is how humans survive and how any warrior can grow stronger." Kiro nodded, silently acknowledging the truth of her words. He realized that Mara had left a lasting impression on the outpost. Humans were often underestimated, but they could teach even the most disciplined warriors something valuable. As the sun set, casting golden reflections across the crystalline landscape, Mara prepared to leave Vesper 9. She walked to her shuttle, feeling the satisfaction of a mission well completed. The soldiers she had guided and inspired waved quietly, their respect for her clear in their eyes. Cairo approached one last time. You have changed how we view humans, he said. Your presence here will be remembered. The outpost is stronger because of you, not just in skill but in thought, courage, and strategy. You have shown us what humans are capable of. Mara nodded. It is not about proving anything, she said. It is about doing your best and helping others succeed. Humans survive not because we are the strongest, but because we adapt, act, and never give up. With that, she boarded her shuttle. As it lifted off, she looked back at the outpost. Kiro and the soldiers stood together, a small group of warriors who had learned an important lesson. Never underestimate humans. They were unpredictable, resourceful, and capable of extraordinary feats. Mara smiled quietly. She had proven that humans could stand alongside any species, overcome any challenge, and inspire those around them. She had survived, adapted, and led. Her legacy on Vesper 9 would endure, not through strength alone, but through ingenuity, courage, and the ability to rise above every obstacle. As the shuttle ascended into the sky, leaving Vesper 9 behind, Mara looked out at the stars. She knew that new challenges awaited her, new worlds to explore and new opportunities to prove what humans were capable of. But she also knew that the lessons learned here, the respect earned, and the trust gained would remain with her forever. The story of Mara and her human ingenuity became more than a tale of survival. It became a lesson to every Yalari who witnessed it. Strength is not measured by size or discipline alone. True strength lies in the mind, the ability to adapt, and the courage to act. Mara's shuttle disappeared into the distance, but her impact remained. On Vesper 9, the outpost was stronger, its soldiers wiser, and their respect for humans forever changed. She had started as an outsider, underestimated and doubted, but she left as a symbol of what humans could achieve. And Mara knew as she journeyed into the stars that humans would continue to surprise, endure, and rise above any challenge that came their way.